I mean, that ability to be responsive, I think, is at the heart of this service, and part of our promise to have this human curation and not just algorithms, which are driving what's within the platform.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us at this Cannes Marché Meet the Streamers session. My name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm a journalist and film festival consultant, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator today. I'll just wait a second or two while most people enter the room. We're so glad to see so many of you here this afternoon for a very enlightening talk with HBO Max. As I mentioned, this is part of the Marché's Meet the Streamers series, and we are thrilled to have today Sandra Dewey, who is President of Productions and Business Operation for WarnerMedia Entertainment. Welcome, Sandra.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to be here.
So obviously, you see it right there in the title. Today, we're learning a lot more about HBO Max, which launched on May 27th in the US. And a lot of us internationally haven't gotten the chance to play around with it yet. So this is going to be really exciting to hear more. Why don't, before we even go into the real talk, why don't we watch a sizzle reel from HBO Max? Can we play that, please?
Excellent.
Sandra, for those who haven't been following as closely, what would you say is the sort of DNA of HBO Max?
The DNA, well, gosh, that's a big question. I think the DNA is to have content and an offering that's exciting, that meets the qualitative threshold of HBO that HBO's delivered to for years and years for every member of your family, and starting with kids and co-viewing with families to the youth audience, up into adults, that everyone will have a regular cadence of exciting and new programming that they can expect to have the consistency that HBO has delivered over all these years. And part of that is really a commitment on our part to be a platform which reaches out to some of these voices that have been underrepresented and whose stories haven't been told. So we're really excited to be able to deliver that to our audiences also.
Great. And I think you even have, because, you know, like I said, it's only available in the US right now. So, and I know we have a lot of international audience here at Cannes. So maybe you can introduce, we have a little video, I think, that shows us what it looks like. Can you tell us what we're going to see here?
We do. This was a small video that was put together by a gentleman named Andy Forcell, who is our executive vice president and general manager at HBO Max. And this was put together before the launch. You'll see in the language, but it's intended to give you a sense of what the interface looks like and what the platform looks like, so you can see what it feels like to walk through it. So hopefully you'll enjoy getting a little taste of that.
Great, let's roll this video and then come back.
This is the homepage, of course, and we're looking at one of the latest builds of the software. I'm showing the iPad version here, but will be available on a whole host of platforms at launch and even more as we get through the year. Notice that we made a very big move to get away from the dense grid or rectangles that most SVOD apps use today. You can see that with varying image sizes, theme trays, the highlight elements, and our hub section, it's a pretty visually diverse homepage. And although we'll use data in very smart ways, there's plenty of room for human curation here. In fact, most of what you see are conscious choices by our editorial and programming teams. Now, if you want volume and tonnage, of course, you can get it. Let me just look at an example. We'll click into movies and let's pick documentaries. Even just in docs, the amount of content here is fantastic. So there's a lot available. But going back to the homepage, we think for most sessions, users are going to be much happier with pretty tight curation and a much more interesting layout to browse through. The number one mission here is make it really easy for a viewer to find something to watch that they love. That's really easy to say and it's really hard to do, but we're determined to get relentlessly better at that. It's going to take great programming, some pretty cool user experience, experimentation, and a mix of human curation and pretty sophisticated use of data. Now I'll click into this episode of Westworld and we'll go to the episode detailed page. Here I can watch the episode, I can add it to my list for later, or I can download it for offline viewing. Download for offline viewing has been by far the single most requested feature from HBO Now and Go users. And in HBO Max, we're delivering on that. Viewers are going to love it. Let me show you one last thing. Let's go to a kids page, which we can do by using my daughter Quinn's profile. You can see the lock on her profile symbol. That means I've set up a pin. So easy to click in, but once you're in, you can't get back out or watch any inappropriate content without entering that pin. The body of kids content we have for all ages is pretty cool. It runs pretty deep. The programming teams have done an amazing job. Quinn is 10, so if we look at this carousel curated for her, both the Lego movies are here. Spirited Away, which is just really a gateway into the whole body of Studio Ghibli content that's fantastic. The Flintstones, I'm hardcore Gen X, so you know darn well the Flintstones are going to be required watching in my household. Get ready, Quinn. Really looking good. This is fantastic. I can't wait for my kids to use it. I think it's really come out nicely.
Great. That gives us a little glimpse on how it might look. Obviously, it's probably different a little bit for everybody depending on what you're interested in. This audience we have today is here at the Cannes Marché, and I wanted to talk a little bit about film, of course. It seems like there is quite a lot on offer for cinephiles. We just heard Studio Ghibli, for instance. Can you talk a little bit about the film content that's available on HBO Max?
Yes, I'd love to actually. I think will be a delightful place for film lovers to come and explore. Well, one of the things, I didn't mention this when you asked me what the DNA is, but one of the, I think, striking and defining features of HBO Max is the combination of this deep, rich library, which spans the corners of WarnerMedia and the various divisions of the company, which includes, of course, 100 years of movie making from Warner Brothers, and also the film history of New Line. And just getting off movies for one quick second, of course, we have been able to cull the best of our programming from the history of Turner's original productions, from CNN, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. So a vast library, and Warner Brothers Television, of course. So there is 10,000 hours of the most wonderful, deep, rich, historic to the current programming to offer, and then the originals on top of that. So we think that is really a distinguishing factor of this particular platform, the combination of that deep, rich, qualitative library and then the originals on top of it. But for our film lovers, as I mentioned, we have the Warner Brothers library, New Line. We have the Criterion Collection. We have the MGM library, which spans 60 years, Studio Ghibli. And of course, those films go from, classics, Casablanca, Wizard of Oz, early in film history, there's many silent films, all the way up to, contemporary classics. And you saw that we have a new series coming from Ridley Scott, Raised by Wolves, that was in our reel at the beginning. But, the Alien movies, Blade Runner, so many films. I'm particularly excited to be able to share those with, I have two teenage daughters. So my ability to easily walk through sort of a tutorial of these great films and enhance their film knowledge is thrilling for me. And then, of course, we are also going to make original and new films for the platform. We have a new collaboration, which is a partnership between HBO Max and the Warner Brothers Picture Group. And we're going to both acquire and create new films for the platform. So we're very excited about that. And we have a few. You saw the Meryl Streep movie, which is called Let Them All Talk, which was directed by Steven Soderbergh. You saw the movie with Seth Rogen, which is called American Pickle, which is going to be the first original movie that debuts on the platform. So we already have a handful of movies that are teed up to premiere. It's extensive. And
Right.
also, I should mention one other thing, that within the platform, there is a curated hub that tips its hat to our TCM network, the Turner Classic Movies, which film lovers know is a curated, wonderful world of these films. And the people who curate for TCM are also involved in curating this particular hub for HBO Max. So we're very excited about that.
Great. So it's not just algorithms, it's people putting forward some amazing content. In that context, I did want to ask about Gone with the Wind. The service took it down because it, from what I read, didn't think, thought it needed context and sort of explaining in the current climate. Can you maybe tell us any update? Is it going to come back with some context?
It is coming back with context, yes. We have a film scholar, Jacqueline Stewart, who is in the process now of providing some curation and context around the film. And so it will return to the service soon with her contribution around the film. And yeah, I think you said it correctly. I think that we feel that for certain pieces of content, Gone with the Wind being one, which reflect racial insensitivities or racism or something that requires historical context around the storytelling, that this will be our approach for that sort of thing. We understand the value and historical place that these films have and the stories that were told in their time, and it's important that people see that. But it's also, we think, important as people who are carrying messages to our consumers and to the public, that we provide appropriate, responsible messaging along with those messages,
Okay, so we'll look for that to come back with context.
Hopefully very soon. I don't have a date for you, but I know we're working on it, and it should be coming back very soon.
Great. And is there a policy, especially obviously with the new films and the originals, will any of those get theatrical rollout, and will that be day and date? Will some films get a traditional theatrical window and then come onto the platform? And is that a case-by-case basis?
It is. Our overall approach is to create films for the service and not for theatrical release. But we do believe that there will be a handful of movies which we, either because we think they are potential contenders for award consideration, and so we may go out on a limited basis so that these, wonderful films can be considered for awards. Also, it may be that we are hoping to bring a particular project into HBO Max, and that the creator, the filmmaker, wants a promise that it'll be seen in theaters. So if that is the case, there may be some of those. But it's not going to be our approach on an across the board basis. They will be very much case by case.
Okay. We hadn't officially mentioned the famous Snyder Cut, the Justice League. Is that, will that just be for the platform? And do we have any idea when that will be coming?
Well, I will tell you that we don't have an official premiere date yet. It will be in 2021. That was an exciting enterprise. From the moment we announced HBO Max, we had such a passionate fan base asking for the release of this Snyder Cut. And it's one of these instances, and I hope it sort of exemplifies part of our mission, which is to really listen to what our consumers and users want and what excites them and what they're passionate by, and to be able to be responsive to that. But this is a big instance of us having to work very hard to make it all possible. But the enthusiasm of the fans has been fantastic. So we're very excited about that. Yes, it'll be hopefully early mid 2021, without making any promise.
Okay, I'm sure there's fans listening now that are very excited about that. As I mentioned, I think this is the Cannes Marché. I think we have a very international audience tuning in. So what can you tell us? I know not everything is firm with dates and exact locations, but what can you tell us about the international rollout for the platform?
Well, we understand that this is a global marketplace, and we understand that our future will be very much to become an international and global service. Having said that, we are on track with our first launch, which will be in Latin America, and that is something that is intended to launch in early 2021. So we're very excited about that, and those plans are well underway. With respect to the rest of the world, we are still in the stages of considering, how the launches are going to move forward, and it will be, on a pace schedule. But Latin America is the only one that we have firm progress on and that we're working on now.
Okay. Any hints about Europe? I mean, that's on the books for at some point, I hope.
Yes, well, Europe is absolutely at the top of the list of where we know is an important market, and there are people that are examining the possibilities. It's a bit complex for a variety of reasons, so we don't have dates around that. But yes, it won't be too long in the future. Some of our content, as you can imagine, has been promised in various territories around the world, and so that's complicated our ability to roll out, on any predetermined time frame. We have to work within the construct of the distribution of our content that's already been in place. But there's teams of people who are examining how best to be in Europe, and hopefully that will be soon.
Great. And even before you're physically launching in these places, just wondering how you're looking internationally, either at non-English language content, at working with international talents. Is that something that is already you're not launching until 2021 in other territories?
Well, it's interesting. Even before this, the immediacy of this pandemic, which has changed many things with respect to our content and what content will be coming in the future, it was very much an important part of our mission going forward to look to the worldwide collection of creators and new voices, and to bring some of that back to the HBO Max service. I mean, I think what we're seeing on other streaming services is that the American audience is getting ever more acclimated to watching stories from other countries, watching stories in other languages, and we are delighted to try to grow that business within our own platform, because the storytelling is so rich. So that was very much a mandate for us even before the pandemic, because of production that was put on hiatus in response to COVID-19. That was one of the ways in which we pivoted very quickly, was to look into the global marketplace and to see what content was fully finished and which we could bring back. So we actually have quite a robust offering of international content, which is going to be part of our service sooner rather than later. We have any number of shows, quite a long list actually, and we're very excited about growing that as a future business also.
Okay, and for instance, are your colleagues attending the Cannes Marché this week, looking at films that are screening, or having meetings with sales companies and producers to look at new content? Are you actively acquiring?
We are actively acquiring, although I don't think we are at Cannes Marché. We have an acquisitions team, and I don't think they are there, but I know that we are very much in the marketplace and expect, and I think we are robust buyers now, but understand that that's going to only increase with time, both because we think that's going to continue to be an area of growth within the US market in terms of what consumers enjoy watching, but also as our international services begin to roll out, we will have more and more of a global perspective. So yes, it's very important for us going forward.
Okay, there will be some excited producers here. Glad to hear that.
I imagine many of them we're in discussions with now. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
No, sorry to interrupt you, but how it's so hard to say right now because we're in a strange year, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But in a typical year, if we ever have one again. How much would you say would be acquisition, or how much would be sort of greenlighting your own original shows and films?
Well, I'm going to loosely say it's about a 50-50 proposition. I mean, we're very interested as we continue to make connections with content creators around the world to grow those relationships and to develop ideas together. And we are doing that now. At the same time, there is all of this delightful, wonderful content that's been produced that is available to us as acquirers of content. And so our mission is really to bring the best storytelling to the service that we can. So however we can get to that, we want to. And we're in these early stages. We have the ability to be very nimble. But right now, I would say it washes out to be about 50-50, and we'll see how that progresses with time.
Okay. And for an original, what would you say? I'm going to use that DNA again. What do you need? I know it's hard to put a finger on it. Is it an established talent? Is it a cast member who might have a fan base? What do you need to greenlight something? What does it have to be to really catch your eye?
Well, I think the most important attribute for us is, we're looking for a unique voice and a story that hasn't been told before. And we love it when these creators have something to say about the world. And also, I mentioned it earlier, but we're very cognizant of the fact that there are so many voices that have been underrepresented and whose stories haven't been told. And I think in terms of the consuming public, there's a real hunger to hear those stories, to hear stories that they're not what they've seen, even these beautiful, wonderful stories that have been told for many years. But we've heard many of those, and we're really interested into reaching out into the world and presenting stories that people haven't heard. One example of that, we are one of our series that has been ordered is based on the beloved book Americana. I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but it's this deep, rich. It's a love story at its heart, but it starts in Nigeria. It takes place in part in the UK and part in the United States, and it's a story that's never been told before. It's beautiful and rich, and we're very excited to be able to tell that.
And is that going to be brought
to us by?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, forgive me. I was just going to say it was brought to us by the wonderful Lupita Nyong'o, who is attached to star.
Great. And is that going to be a series, or will that be a one-off feature? How will that one be structured?
It's a limited series.
Okay. Great. Sorry, we're getting that Zoom delay thing, even though we're not on Zoom. One other thing, we're talking about HBO, Warner, AT&T. These sound like, huge giants. But I think there are room for independent voices on HBO Max. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that. I think you've even, picked up something from Sundance. It's not just huge corporate global entertainment, is it?
Well, no. I mean, I think we are very interested in independent voices. All the reasons that I've been saying. Yes, the Sundance Award winner that we acquired is a movie called Charm City Kings. So we're very happy to be bringing that to the service. We have, there's many examples. Americana, which I just mentioned. You saw in the reel at the beginning. We're very proud to have a documentary called On the Record that was brought to us by. Forgive me. The filmmakers have just danced out of my head. Kirby and Amy, who did the Hunting Ground, and also Invisible War. And we have a series of comedy specials coming from John Early, Rose Matafeo, and Rose also has a series coming with us, who was a winner at the Edinburgh Comedy Festival. So we're really trying to, in addition to some of our offering, which is meant to be broad reach and to be pleasing to, really a big audience, we're also looking to find, these unique and individual voices that tell perhaps stories that are more narrow but beautiful also.
And maybe this is a naughty question. How can people reach you, an independent voice? I mean, do you have people scouting at all the festivals?
Oh, we
Are you
do.
accept, spec scripts? That might be a really dangerous question. Um,
Well, spec scripts is not the way to go. I mean, usually we have material comes into us through known either producers or agents, but we have a whole team of people in the international marketplace. We have acquisitions people, and then on the original programming front, we have a wonderful executive named Jennifer Kim who works with Laura Forty from our office, and they're talking to everyone. They're very easy to reach, and they're very interested in meeting all of these new filmmakers and content creators.
Great. So people can find you the right way.
Yes, yes.
Um,
People can reach out to me and I'll direct you. I'm easy to find.
it's been impressive that you were able to go ahead and launch in May during this very strange year. So congratulations for even doing a launch in lockdown. Obviously, you mentioned that some productions are on hiatus, as for every content company in the world. When do you think you're going to be able to safely start some of that production again? I mean, could it have a big impact on your 2021 pipeline?
Well, gosh, those are tough questions to answer. I would hesitate to guess when we can be back in production, although it's a subject of daily discussion, as you can imagine. But there are any number of factors. I mean, we've been part of a coalition within our industry to put together what we call a white paper, which is out, and we think we could safely be back into production because, as you can imagine, first and foremost, as much as we would really love to have all these shows that we have our heart and soul in back in production, first and foremost, we're concerned about the health and safety of all the people that are working on these shows. And we have to make sure that everyone can be made as safe as possible before we go down that path. As I was mentioning, we are part of a group, a coalition within the industry that put together this white paper, which was presented to Governor Cuomo of New York and is sort of a standard bearer for the other governors and jurisdictions also to consider as a means to get back into production. But beyond that, we're obviously working with the health experts about what we should and shouldn't be doing. And one of the steps that we are currently in process on is to have, along with other media companies, we're in conversations with the labor unions about setting a basis and a set of guidelines that they will feel comfortable, the labor unions will be comfortable allowing their membership to go back to work. So we're in the process of sorting that out. But in the meantime, some of these, whenever there's a big problem, a problem of this magnitude, we all know what the negative and the downside of that is. But one of the upsides is that it really does bring people's creativity and innovation to the surface. And what we're seeing is people who are putting together all kinds of new offerings, and you're seeing, for example, all of those talented people working in late night who are filming from their homes or from other locations. We have a number of those in our world with Conan O'Brien and Samantha Bee and John Oliver and Bill Maher. But beyond that, people are really creative in what they're putting together, and I think we're going to see some really interesting things come forward, which may in fact change our business. And we are putting together some of the shows. We have a delightful show that's being made right now with Selena Gomez, where every week she's quarantining at home with her grandparents, and every week she's doing a different show with a well-known chef who is attempting to teach her how to cook. So that's an example of something we're doing. There's a number of shows like that. But we have a extensive animation offering both for kids and adult animation, and those people have been able to continue to work during this time period. We had a lot of programming that was close to finish because as you can imagine, we were on this race up till our launch. And so we were able to shift gears and set up edit bays in people's homes and things like that. So we're finishing a lot of content. And then, what we've talked about quite a bit in this conversation, we did turn to the international marketplace to see what content we could acquire that was fully finished, and films. both American Pickle with Seth Rogen that we showed in the reel and we discussed a little bit, Charm City Kings from Sundance. We've made some acquisitions of films that will come in also until the time comes when we're able to get back up and running with, our full slate of production.
Right. I can't wait to see what Selena Gomez is cooking up in lockdown.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but in her first episode, which could not be more charming, our beloved Los Angeles chef Ludo was working with her and they made a souffle. So you can look forward to that.
Selena's souffle. Okay,
yeah.
Wonderful. What would you say you've learned since that launch on May 27th? Not just you as Sandra, but, the company and the platform and your colleagues. I imagine every day is different.
It is. It is a fun, swift learning experience every single day, because I think it's one of the delights for us is for the first time to have all this data that tells us in real time what people are watching and what they're enjoying. And if there's a forward-facing sort of edict that we're all living by, it's this desire to deliver to our consumers what they want, what they would be most excited about, and how they want it. And one example of that is, one of our offerings on launch, one of our signature shows is Love Life with Anna Kendrick. And our original plan was to put up the first 3 episodes, and then the remaining 7 would be put up on a once-a-week basis, similar to the air pattern that HBO has. And what we found was that people really wanted to sit. There was this voracious assumption and a desire for people to see it more swiftly. And so we were able to pivot in real time and move up those episodes so that people could see them quickly. We were doing post-production on some of the later episodes and we moved very quickly so we could offer it. So that's the kind of thing I think we'll really look forward to, is seeing how people want to consume and watch this content, seeing what they want to watch, what really resonates with people, what they love, what they want more of. That ability to be responsive, I think, is at the heart of this service, and part of our promise to have this human curation and not just algorithms which are driving what's within the platform.
Yeah, interesting. And I think audiences will be different in different places, so you'll be learning, from that global rollout as well.
I think that's really true. Oh, forgive me. I was just going to say, I think that's true. Geographically, people are very different in terms of what they watch and how they watch it. Also, demographically, how kids watch, how what we call the YA audience, young people watch, is very different than adults. And that's the beauty of this type of format, is to be responsive to, different people in different places and how they watch. I think that's really fantastic, actually.
Right. One thing, obviously before I met you, I Googled you, as I, want to do. And I was just really interested to read all the work you've been doing throughout your career about inclusion, whether that's supporting other women or, creators of color. Can you talk a little bit about what you want HBO Max to do in terms of inclusion? I think one stat is that the development team run by Sarah Aubrey is 81% female, which is fantastic news. But maybe you can talk a little bit about plans for inclusion.
Yeah, I am so happy to talk about that, because, as you said, it's really a passion area of mine. And I think, starting with, you mentioned Sarah's development group, and there's a lot of attention, and appropriately so, on issues of systemic racism in our country and how certain people don't have an equal opportunity, whether it's for jobs or to tell their stories. And we as a company are fully committed to doing our best to both understand that and address it. I say with some pride that before the immediacy of current events right now, we were deeply into acknowledging that truth and working to be a platform of change. And, Sarah, she had a large amount of hiring as we were building the team that would in fact launch HBO Max. So that 81% women is a phenomenal statistic. She has over 30% people of color in her group. And the reason why that's so important is because those people are going to shape the stories that we buy and that we develop and that we curate from the marketplace, and that will be reflected then in the stories that we tell. There's equally impressive statistics about what's happening for us in terms of the making of this content. Before the pandemic put all of our shows into hiatus, we had completed, I believe, 72 episodes of content, and of those, 50% were directed by either women or a person of color. Some, I can break down the statistics because I don't mean to conflate those two, but that is so much of an improvement over traditional statistics within our industry. And same for our writing room. Of the shows which we have in development and which are being written, over 60% are being written or were created by women or people of color. And so it's very much a mandate for us. And we think that it will make our storytelling richer and more interesting for the people who are watching it on our platform. Yeah.
Great. I like hearing good statistics like that.
Yeah, I don't mean to throw out, I could dig deeper into the statistics because, as you can tell, I'm actually very, very proud of them. And I'm proud of our company for caring so much and bringing commitment to getting these people an opportunity to tell these stories. But statistics are boring in these conversations, let's be honest. So I'll cut myself off.
I think we have put you through the ringer as an executive a little bit, but you're also a person, a mother, a film lover, a TV watcher. So I wanted to ask you for fun. So, what are some of the things you've been watching on HBO Max, and some personal recommendations that you might have?
Well, that makes me very happy to be able to tell that story. I will tell you, I was with Sarah Aubrey and the two women that run our unscripted and documentary division in Sundance when we made the decision to go after On the Record. And so I think it is a powerful story. I think it deserved to be told. So I'm very proud of that. I watched that with my family. Love Life, which we've talked a little bit about with Anna Kendrick, which is having just incredibly positive response within our service. People are loving it and watching it. It's a very charming and delightful piece of entertainment. So I watched that. I mentioned I have teenage girls. They're young adults, actually. So we all had fun watching that together. But one of the big things, as we've been quarantined at home together, and we have more time to sit together since our busy lives have stopped, I took the opportunity to choose something that we could make a big commitment to and watch. And my girls had never seen The Sopranos. So we just completed watching the first season, and we're going into the second season. And I cannot tell you how happy it makes me to sit down with them and to talk to them about how groundbreaking that show was and why it's so wonderful. And they're really loving it. And then there's another show. I'm making it sound like all we do is watch. That is not true. But we're also watching, I don't know if you're familiar with our series Search Party, which had started on one of our linear networks on TBS, but wasn't able, it was so beloved by critics and by its audience, but it wasn't appropriate. It couldn't have found success within the world of the TBS network. And this is another thing within our broader framework of our company. We were able to take this sort of beloved small show and move it over to HBO Max, where hopefully it could have a bigger success and find its audience. But Search Party it's a very unique voice. It's got a little bit of a mystery in it, but it's a real window, and it's told with humor into the mindset of our millennial generation. And so I've been watching that with my family also, and it has given us all measures of glee, is all I can say. So I can recommend those. But beyond that, and we touched on this quite a bit earlier, I am just determined for my kids who are movie lovers to really systematically increase their knowledge of film history and all these beautiful gems that we have as part of our offerings. So I can't wait to sort of march systematically through some of the movies also.
Great stuff. I think that gives a lot of people maybe some tips for viewing when HBO Max is available to them. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us today. I really wanted to thank your team at HBO Max for helping prepare today's session. They've been wonderful. Thanks, of course, to everyone at the Marché, particularly Quentin and Alexandra, for coordinating these Meet the Streamers talks. And I should say the Streamers talks continue later this week, so check those out. But really, Sandra, thank you so much for joining us and being honest about what's going on and the challenges and the unique benefits of HBO Max. I think we've all learned a lot. So, and thanks especially to the audience. We know you're busy this week at Cannes Marché online, so thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be looking for HBO Max internationally.
Thank you, Wendy. It was a pleasure to be here.